The all-in-one-night genre is a type of movie that I always crave. No matter what the movie is, if I find out that it takes place all in one night, it immediately jumps onto my radar. I always tried to articulate what a contained amount of time in movies interests me so much. I always tried to articulate why a contained amount of time in movies always interests me. Maybe it's the constant sense of tension. The fact that everyone has had one of those nights where you are just trying to get some sleep, home, or both. Maybe it's even that when I watch one of these movies, I feel that tiredness, which just engages me even more. I'm still not sure, and I probably won't ever truly know, but I sure know that I love them. With this video, I wanted to highlight a few of them, specifically one-night movies, because I feel one-day movies have a completely different and unique feel to them, which I feel like saving for another time, but not the obvious one-night movies. Probably my favorite of this genre, as well as one of my all-time favorite movies, is Martin Scorsese's After Hours. That one is a pretty famous example of the genre, as well as all of these others that I would also recommend. The Informer, Dr. Strangelove, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Night of the Living Dead, American Graffiti, Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, The Warriors, The Return of the Living Dead, Clue, Before Sunrise, and Collateral. But I want to go for some deep cuts with this section and recommend some that you may not have known about and to put on your radar. Miracle Mile. Anthony Edwards plays Harry and Mare Winningham plays Julie. Both meet at a natural history museum in California. They immediately hit it off together. Julie has a late night shift at a local diner in the Miracle Mile neighborhood in Los Angeles. Harry plans to meet her at midnight that night after her shift. Through certain chance of fate, Harry ends up oversleeping and doesn't arrive until 4 a.m. He goes to the phone booth next to the diner and tries to phone her to no success. Thinking she may come back, he decides to go back to the diner, but before he can step away from the booth, the phone rings. Something compels him to pick it up. On the other line is a hysterical man in a missile silo who says that World War III is going to happen in 1 hour. All the nuclear missiles will travel across the world, and there will be mass destruction and death. The rest of the movie is Harry trying to grapple with the truth of this news, all while trying to find Julie to potentially save her. While the news that Harry has heard starts to spread across Miracle Mile and downtown LA, which eventually erupts into chaos and riots. The whole vibe of this movie in the beginning is a genuinely sweet love story, which all turns on a dime into a thriller. I loved this aspect, as well as the subgenre of genre-shifting cinema. The direction of this movie is tight and so well thought out. The director and writer Steve DeJarnette used so much reincorporation throughout that I didn't even pick up on until I watched the commentary track with him. But in my opinion, my favorite thing in the entire movie is the score by Tangerine Dream. It helps the viewer delve into this nighttime mood so well, while at the same time being genuinely romantic. Intense when it needs to be. For a movie that is this low budget, it is able to convey so much throughout the runtime. With every viewing, it continues to grow better and better. Siege. This movie delves into another one of my favorite subgenres, the siege movie. Probably the most well-known example of this is John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13. This is Canada's answer to that movie. This has an absolutely brutal and shocking opening scene which sets the events of the long night. During an actual police strike that was happening at the time, a gang busts into a local gay bar. Tensions escalate, which results in the entire bar being murdered by the gang, with only one bar patron escaping into the night. He finds refuge in an almost empty apartment building with only a few tenants remaining. The gang tracks him down to the apartment, and what proceeds for the rest of the movie are the people trapped inside trying to fend off the approaching gang members. This movie really has grown on me since first seeing it. The setting of the movie, I feel, is the main key that lends to the amazing atmosphere of this movie. It's set during a time when an actual police strike was happening, and this really helps the absolute horror of the entire night. These people have no one to turn to, and they have to escape with their lives. Then you have the actual location of the movie, this apartment building. The way it's laid out is very unique. The bulk of the movie takes place between two apartments at the top of the building, but they are connected by this mirror that opens up. They really utilize this detail to great effect in a key scene in the movie. This is an exercise in sustained tension and absolute dread, which the director captures so beautifully. Vice Squad. I first saw this movie back in 2020, and it became my favorite thing I saw that entire year. The explosion of style and atmosphere made me completely mesmerized throughout the entire runtime. Over the course of one night in the seedy side of LA, a hooker and a cop attempt to capture a homicidal pimp named Ramrod. It's one of those sneaky all-in-one night movies where halfway through, I realize we're in the same night. I love when that happens. And the performance of Wings Hauser is the absolute highlight. He is relentless and incredibly intimidating. By the end of the movie, you feel like you have survived this long night odyssey because Gary Sherman does not hide away from any of the violence. He shows it to you bluntly, which just increases the impact of it. He also always keeps the camera moving to help establish the entire location. One of my favorites being a street shot where we travel across the street from one car to another. And I'm also a sucker for when the movie has a theme song. And this just so happens to have one of the greatest theme songs ever with Neon Slime sung by Wings Hauser himself. I feel like this is really starting to find its audience. Return of the Living Dead Part 2. I wanted to go in a different direction with this one. I could easily put Return of the Living Dead here. That is also an over the course of one night movie, and it's also one of my favorites. But I feel the sequel gets kind of tossed aside a lot. Yes, it does have problems, and it's not as good as the first one, and it's in this weird alternate universe reimagining of the first one. But man, is this movie just so much fun and has one of my favorite settings in any horror movie. This underdeveloped suburb, I don't know why, but whenever I hear the phrase horror movie, I immediately think of this setting. I enjoy the performances from everybody, and the switch to basically an outright comedy is something I can see a lot of people not vibing with, but I just love how goofy it is, and the whole cast sells it perfectly. Vamp. I want to finish this video off with a movie that is a perfect little hidden gem, but one that has an explosion of style. This is 1986's Vamp. 3 college students head out to an all-night bar, but quickly come to realize that the whole place is run by vampires. I first saw this movie through the Arrow release, which you have to see this movie in HD. The color palette of the green and the purple gel lights are gorgeous. Every scene basically has this stylized lighting, and it just increases the nighttime feel. The film stars Chris Makepeace, who I've always enjoyed whenever he pops up in anything, but probably the movie is best known for the supportive vampire performance of Grace Jones. She's not in the movie very much, or even speaks, but she makes a wonderfully creepy impression. The entire movie as a whole is just endlessly fun, and I feel is the perfect movie for October. There will definitely be more of these videos about all-in-one night movies because I just can never get enough of this genre. All right, see you later.